Good evening. This is Orson Welles. Tonight we bring you another radio program for Lady Esther. Among those present are Lucille Ball, Marsha Hunt, Joe Cotton, and Agnes Moorehead. We've got two items for you. I'll tell you about the second when we get to it. The first is one of the warmest and nicest love stories I ever found for radio. Ever since I read it 4 years ago, I've been wanting to do it for you. It's called If in Years to Come. I hope you like it as much as I do. But first, here's a word from Lady Esther.
There's an old saying you've heard many times. Distant pastures look greener. Yes, and face powder often looks better from a distance, too. Face powder can be a sly cheat that loses all its flattery as soon as eyes are close. Here's an interesting experiment that will show you exactly what I mean. Just powder your face as usual and then stand opposite your mirror, way on the other side of the room. From that distance, your skin will look soft and smooth. Your powder will probably look quite flattering. But now walk slowly toward your mirror. Come closer and closer until your eyes are just a few inches away from your image. Now, what do you see? Does your skin still look soft and smooth? Or can you suddenly see big pores, tired lines, little blemishes? Now, if you want your skin to look just as smooth and young in a close-up as it does from across the room, use Lady Esther face powder. Women who have used it for years say it makes them feel so sure of themselves, even when a man's critical eyes are closed. Yes, you can count on Lady Esther face powder to make your skin look its youngest and loveliest at any distance. It won't turn traitor, won't cake or streak the way ordinary face powders often do. You see, Lady Esther face powder is an entirely different kind of powder because it's made differently. It's made by my exclusive twin hurricane method, and it's much softer, much finer than powder usually is. It goes on a smoother way that brings a new kind of flattery to your skin. So is it any wonder more lovely women now use Lady Esther face powder than any other kind?
And now, our first story. If in Years to Come. Do you remember, dear, those old days back in 1909 when we were 18? Do you remember the blonde-haired boy who saw you first on Radcliffe Avenue? You were coming to high school with Margaret Blue. I was football captain and president of the senior class. I was with Buck Cooper and another fellow. When I saw you, I stopped in my tracks and just stared.
Hey, what's the matter with you, Jimmy?
Who is she, Buck? Huh?
Oh, her name's Ruth Randall. New girl in town. Family just moved here from Philadelphia. They got a lot of money. Their ancestors came over in Noah's Ark. What ate you, anyway?
Oh, nothing, Buck.
For the look on your face, it said there was plenty eating.
You came, walking into the sunshine with Margaret Blue, and there was an aura around your head. There were specks of gold in your eyes as you glanced at me. That was all, one glance. That was enough for me. I knew then that I loved you. I'd always love you. There'd never be anyone else. When you walked away from me, I wanted to reach out my arms to you and call you back. Till I met you, I hadn't thought much about being poor. After that, I thought about it a lot. Your father was quite a man of affairs, and my father was dead, and my mother did fancy sewing for the rich people in town. She did it proudly with her head held high, but you didn't know that. All you knew was that I was a dressmaker's son. Just the same, you took me into your crowd. And then came the high school dance at Browder's Hall. Leon Marvin had asked you to go with him, but you told him that you'd already promised to go with me. Though I hadn't asked you yet. You knew that Leon sought only the privilege of loving and being kind to you, but he was just an awkward boy with a poet's heart, and I was Jimmy Fisk, football captain, and a big man in school. I told my mother that night as we sat across the table in the shabby kitchen.
You're very fond of Ruth Randolph, aren't you, Jimmy?
But she's my girl, Mother.
The Randolphs are very rich, Jimmy.
That doesn't make any difference to her. She's not like that.
Of course not. I wasn't thinking of her. I'm sorry you're having a good blue suit to wear.
Well, the gray one I brought from Abe Grossman, the Main Street Emporium, will be all right.
I hope so, Jimmy.
But it wasn't all right. I knew that as soon as I got to the Randolph's house. You were still upstairs when your little sister saw me take off my coat and stand resplendent in Abe Grossman's conception of a tricky suit. She whistled through the openings where two front teeth should have been.
Don't we look sporting, though?
And then you came down the stairs. You wore a new blue dress, which was all frilly net around your shoulder. Your face was like a dark flower. Pink roses were in your cheeks. You held out your hand.
Hello, Jimmy.
Hello, Ruth.
Why don't you kiss her and get it over with?
That would have been a sacrilege. Though I'd kissed other girls in my time, but I was a man now. I was 18. I discovered something rare and precious to be cherished always. Your mother came down the stairs and I was painfully conscious, not so much of disapproval as of tolerance.
Good evening, James.
Good evening, ma'am. The rest of the crowd came up the porch then. Your mother greeted them. There was a difference in the way she said good evening to them. They were of her own kind. I was an outsider, but the dance, I forgot all that. We were together, you and I. We had dance cards in those days. There were 12 dancers in all. I kept most of yours for myself. When I showed you the card, you flashed a look at me which made my heart skip a beat. I knew that everything was all right then. Lydia Collins, an old maid, and Jake Moss, the town drunkard, played the music, and I never heard such sweet music as they played. It was beautiful. And do you remember the terrible thing that I did to poor Miss Collins? We waltzed too near the piano, and as I swung you around, my thumb, which was held out stiffly as was the fashion in those days, caught in Miss Collins' pompadour, and her wrap fell to the floor. And there was a thin gray hair which was her own, streaming down all around her.
Young man, you ought to look where you're dancing.
Oh, it's terribly sorry, Miss Collins. May I come in the dressing room with you? I'll help you rearrange it.
You picked up her wrap and followed her. When you came back, she'd unbent a little because she'd learned who you were, and that, although you were only 18, you were old enough to be kind to a faded woman, to whom youth was just a vague memory.
You're very good, Miss Randolph. And as for you, young man, try not to be so awkward next time.
Yes, ma'am. That was one of the reasons I loved you so. You could be kind to people like Lydia Collins. And then they played our waltz again. And I held you in my arms. And your lips were very near. And the high school pennant on the wall became flaming banners of glory. And the chattering voices were the echoes of trumpets from a far distance. And your hair was a garden of roses. We didn't know exactly when the music stopped. The rest of the dancers had returned to their seats, but we were still hearing the music of the stars. And I said to you, that'll always be our song.
That will always be our song, Jimmy.
We went over to Red Hotchkiss, who didn't know the world had just stood still. And then do you remember, dear, the night we went to Pointer's Beach? We sat together in the bumping trolley holding hands. Out on the platform, some of the fellows sang the old songs. It was the first time you'd ever been to Pointer's Beach. It was a sort of slumming party. Nobody in your crowd ever went there ordinarily. While I held your hand, your friends talked of their plans for the summer. You were going up to Maine with your family, and they were going to visit you. I hadn't been invited, but we never mentioned that. You only held my hand a little tighter when the others talked about the fun you were all going to have together.
Only 10 cents, fellas. Take your girl up on a Ferris wheel. Only 10 cents. A few feet left of this ride.
Was your last night? We didn't want to share it with the others. They went into the pavilion to dance. We walked on down the pier and looked out over the water. This time tomorrow night, you'll be on your way to Maine.
You know I don't want to go, Jimmy. I'd rather stay here with you.
I've got a job. I start next week. It isn't much. There's a chance to work, and I'll make good, Ruth. I've got to make good. You know why.
You'll make good. I know that, Jimmy.
I want you to meet my mother sometime.
I want to, Jimmy. Penny, you'll write me?
You know I will.
Every day?
Every day. And all the rest of the day I'll be thinking of you, and the nighttime I'll be dreaming of you.
I wish I could ask you to Maine. But of course, now with your job and all...
I understand me. I don't blame you, Mother.
Penny, I want you to come with me to the sophomore hop next year. This is an invitation. Will you come?
Yeah, sure.
Listen, Jimmy. They're playing our song.
Yeah. Our song. Our song, Ruth.
I miss you so, Jimmy, dear. I'll always remember tonight. Always.
Many things have happened since that starlit night. The town has changed. Queer trolleys no longer run at half-hour intervals to Pointer's Beach. The green lawns on Franklin Avenue are marred now with gravel driveways and ugly garages. Horns honk in the darkness, and racing engines shatter the quiet of the night. They wouldn't understand, these modern young men, that when you said, my dear, on the pier at Pointer's Beach, you'd given me all that was needed to make bearable the ache of your absence. Summer went by somehow. We wrote to each other every day. Then you wrote that your mother said we shouldn't write so often. After that, I wrote every day just as before, but I only mailed 2 letters a week. And then you wrote you weren't coming back to town, but going directly to college from Maine, so I had only the sophomore hop to look forward to. The day finally came. Talked the problem over with Mother.
You'll need dress clothes, son.
A tuxedo will do, and I can rent that from Abe Grossman.
But the shirts and tie...
Mr. Grossman promised me I can pay for the shirt in installments. They'll lend me a tie. It'll only be $2.50 altogether, plus train fare and money for a room up there. Maybe I can get a place for 50 cents.
I wish I could manage better for you, Jimmy.
You've done everything you could, Mother. More than you should. I'll make out all right.
Jimmy?
I'm sorry, Ruth.
This is my roommate, Mildred. How do you do?
But I'm working now. Oh. Well, should we get a crab?
Oh, you and Mildred go on. Jimmy and I will come on later.
you and I took another cab. Smelled of old leather and stale tobacco.
Good to see you, Jimmy.
I was tired about that day coach.
As if that mattered.
I'd like very much to kiss you.
Just one.
At the hotel, I asked the clerk how much the cheapest room was. When he told me $3, I told him I'd be back. I walked around till I saw a sign, rooms for rent. I went in.
Yeah? What do you want?
I'd like a room to dress in. Won't need it after 8 o'clock. How much will that be?
50 cents. And you can have the bathroom, if you don't take too long.
I took it and dressed. I couldn't tie my tie, and I went downstairs, and the landlady tied it. I had my other things in my grip, and I checked them at the station and walked toward the campus where your sorority house was.
Did you live there?
Hello, Beth. Didn't see you at the hotel. How do you do? Fred and I are sharing 307. Funny we didn't run into you. I don't remember exactly what my number is. Maybe I'm wrong.
Jenny, the others are taking cabs, but I'd rather walk if you don't mind. It isn't far.
I'd like that.
Goodbye, everybody. Bye with the dance. Just like Jenny, I want you to have a good time. You are having a good time, aren't you, Jenny?
Yeah, it's only
what, Jenny?
I see that all the other girls are wearing flowers. I never thought about bringing you any. I'm sorry.
Flowers don't matter. Nothing matters now. I know that you're here.
Darling. I like to think, dear, that I carried on through the evening. I tried as best I could to talk to your friends in their language, and if I failed, it was not for lack of trying. Most of the girls, the fellows too, asked me what my college was and what fraternity I belonged to. I didn't know how to answer, just tried to kid them. Eta Brighter Pie, I said my fraternity was. We eat pie every night before we go to bed, I said. Didn't go over very well. The tuxedo I'd rented got baggy at the knees, and the left shoulder developed a marvelous sag, and my dress shirt bulged. I wanted to tell you goodbye at the dance, but you said no. You were going to station with me. You asked Bill Fisher to come down and get you at 2:30 after the train left.
We'd better stop at the hotel first and pick up your bag, Jimmy.
No, you, Truth. I can't lie to you. I didn't stay at the hotel. I rented a room somewhere for 50 cents. The suit I'm wearing is rented, and it's the first one I ever wore, and my landlady had a time like 5 for me. My suitcase is checked at the station, and... Well, it is just a mistake my coming here at all. I just don't belong, that's all there is to it.
Oh, Jimmy, I did so want you to have a good time. And you didn't have a good time, did you?
So... There was a mist of tears in your eyes. You were seeing me for the first time for what I was. I thought the glamour of Jimmy Fisk was gone. All you saw now was a small-town boy in an ill-fitting suit who'd ridden to the sophomore hop in a day coach, forgotten to send you flowers.
Here's the train now. Well, it's time to take it back.
Goodbye, Ruth. Ruth. Darling, if in years to come, you should think of me once in a while. Remember that I love you very much.
Oh, Tim, don't say that.
I thought you meant that I shouldn't say I loved you. But I opened my arms, for this was our last minute together. And you came into them. Your silver-embroidered coat against my worn brown one. Boy! I kissed you. And you smiled up at me through your tears.
Goodbye, dear. Goodbye.
Goodbye. I wrote you a letter. My pride was hurt. Because I was young, there was only an aching void where my heart had been. I wrote things I should never have written. You didn't answer. I know now that you never could have answered that letter. In February, my firm sent me to Chicago. We were expanding, and all the talk about sending music through the air was becoming a reality. Our firm had a great future because we were in on the ground floor. Finally, my mother laid away her thimble for the last time. We shook the dust of the town off our feet. Do you remember, dear? But most of all, do you remember the day, a few years later, when we met by accident on Barrett Street in front of a delicatessen store? There were still the same pink roses in your cheeks, the gold specks in your eyes.
Jimmy?
Ruth. Ruth. Oh. If in years to come, do you remember?
I do. I do remember. Dear, I love you. I love you very, very much indeed.
That was 26 years ago. The anniversary of our marriage. And you're worried now, dear, as your mother was once worried over you about Betty Lou. She's 18. She thinks she's in love with Bill McKim. But she's your daughter, our daughter. And there are specks of gold in her eyes, too. I'm asking you to let Bill have his chance. Decide about him after you've read this clumsy attempt to recreate our own romance. It's my anniversary present to you. Perhaps we can ask Bill McKim to our dinner at the country club. Bill will probably be ill at ease. He'll probably wear rented evening clothes and a bulging shirt. He won't know the right things to say. A long time ago, you invited a poor boy to a sophomore hop. Do you remember? That was a story by Earle Reed Silvers called If in Years to Come. Marsha Hunt played Ruth. Agnes Moorehead was Jimmy's mother, and Jimmy himself was your obedient servant. Just a minute, we bring you Lucille Ball. But right now, here's a word from Lady Esther.
Do you like riddles? Well, here's one that's simple to figure out. When is your powder puff an enemy instead of a friend? And here's the answer. When you use it to repowder your face. When you use it to put powder on top of powder. Because you see, putting powder on powder makes your skin look dry, caked, and streaky. And that's why it's so important to use a face powder that really clings. Now, women who use Lady Esther face powder say it clings so long and so well, they don't need to repowder even once during a whole evening. So they don't need to worry about caked powder or streaky skin. I know you, too, will be thrilled when you see how Lady Esther face powder stays with you hour after hour, and how that smooth, lovely, freshly powdered look stays with you as well.
October 13th, 1941. Tomorrow is the anniversary of the Battle of Hastings. On that day, William the Conqueror successfully carried off his invasion of England, a feat that hasn't been repeated since. He was the last man to come ashore, and as he stepped out of his boat, he fell flat on his face. Everybody thought this was a bad omen, but I guess it wasn't. Noah Webster, who wrote Webster's Dictionary, was born 183 years ago this week. They tell a story about Webster, Webster's secretary, Webster's wife, and Webster's own great feeling for words. We like the story so much, we're going to give it a little production. The scene? Noah Webster's library. Noah, played by Lucky Joe Cotton, is seated on his favorite chair, and his secretary, played by Lucille Ball, is seated on Noah. There is a knock at the door. The door opens, and there stands Mrs. Webster, played by Marsha Hunt.
Well, Noah, I'm surprised.
My dear, your use of the English language is miserably inaccurate. You are shocked. I am surprised. Thank you, Miss Hunt. Thank you, Miss Ball. Thank you, Mr. Cotton. And thank you, Mr. Herman. Bernard Herman, who composes and conducts the music for this program. Now we come to our second item. Two ladies are responsible for this. The Mrs. Parker and Ball. Parker, Dorothy Parker, has yet to be universally bracketed as a major poetess. I don't know why. I don't know precisely what makes major poetry. Big themes, I guess. Of this I'm perfectly certain, however. Nobody's themes were ever more interesting than Dorothy Parker's, and surely no singer of songs has ever presented us with sweeter sour grape. Also, I do think we're most fortunate tonight in our choice of artiste for the declamation of fame. We proudly present Lucille Ball in A Tiny Garland of Poetry by Dorothy Parker. Inventory.
4 be the things I am wiser to know: idleness, sorrow, a friend, and a foe. 4 be the things I'd been better without: love, curiosity, freckles, and doubt. 3 be the things I shall never attain: envy, content, and sufficient champagne. 3 be the things I shall have till I die: laughter and hope and a sock in the eye.
Resume.
Razors pain you, rivers are damp, acids stain you, and drugs cause cramp. Guns aren't lawful, nooses gear, gas smells awful, you might as well live.
The choice.
He'd have given me rolling land, houses of marble and billowing farms, pearls to trickle between my hands, smoldering rubies to circle my arms. You'd only a lilting song, only a melody, happy and high. You were sudden and swift and strong. Never a thought for another had I. He'd have given me laces rare, dresses that glimmered with frosty sheen, shining ribbons to wrap in my hair, horses to draw me as fine as a queen. You'd only to whistle low. Gaily I followed wherever you led. I took you and I let him go. Somebody ought to examine my head.
Pictures in the smoke.
Oh, gallant was the first love, and glittering and fine. The second love was water in a clear white cup. The third love was his, and the fourth was mine, and after that I always get them all mixed up.
Thank Lucille. Well, it looks like our time's just about up. Next week we bring you Ann Baxter, Tim Holt, Ray Collins, Robert Warwick, and the Mercury's prodigal son, Everett Sloan. We've got a couple of stories we think you like. And by the way, please write us what stories you do like. I mean the stories you'd like us to do. This is your show, and we want you to enjoy it. Please remember that Lady Esther and all of us in the Mercury Theater remain always obediently yours. The Columbia Broadcasting System.